Humans just seem to have an excessive need to shirk responsibility to a single person, so that way they feel like they're doing everything without actually having to work for it. It's why our president has gotten so strong over the generations. One after another, more and more of us collect together and say he'll handle the problem so we don't have to think about it. It's a big reason we got into this position. What happens after 60 to 100 years? Well, politicians keep changing, but the administrative state stays. When you look at budgets, it's the cost of labor and manpower. The admin state needs to be heavily reduced, and that's a hard thing to do. As a libertarian anarcho-capitalist, I was vehemently against Trump because there's no way he's not going to abuse state power in the process of making America great again. However, I made it very clear that I had high hopes that he would remove large chunks of the federal government while he was there. And unsurprisingly, he failed miserably. At the time, I didn't fully realize why. I just assumed that he got played or his staff wouldn't let him. There's a million variables that we can't know why he wasn't able to be successful. What I do know is he never waged active war. He kept both China, Russia, and North Korea in their place while he sat at the chair. For me, that is a successful figurehead. Unfortunately, he didn't remove the size of the government at all. In fact, it still got bigger underneath him. We still increased our military spending. So when Vivek says he wants to reduce the federal government by 75%, every fiber of my being wants to believe him. But even if he knows what he wants to do, how can we trust him? He's not looking for your trust. He comes with information and receipts. While Vivek Ramaswamy was in New Hampshire, he had given the answer of not only how he will be successful, but how he learned from Trump's mistakes in office. Let's jump into it.
So when I say we want to shut down the administrative state, I think I'm going to be successful in doing this in a way that Trump bluntly was not. And I want to build on the foundation he laid. He was the first president to identify the problem. You roll that log over, we saw what crawled out. You strike the swamp strikes back. But if you're going to roll that log over and see what crawls out, you better be willing to bring the pesticide. Okay, that's what I'm bringing to the table. So here's how that works, okay? He got duped by the managerial class around him. What did they tell him? Oh, no, sir, there are these civil service protections that stop you from firing these bureaucrats swarming around your nation's capital. Well, it's true that there are civil service protections, but read the law. Those civil service protections only protect against individual employee firings. To say that you work at the EPA, I can't fire you because we disagree on gun control. You can debate whether that's a good law or not, but that's the law. However, the civil service protections do not apply to mass layoffs. Mass layoffs are absolutely what I am bringing to the D.C. bureaucracy. Right? So this is grounded in the current law. So now let's talk about lasting change. They're going to sue me for this. I'm ready for that. I've studied the current Supreme Court. The same Supreme Court that gave us West Virginia versus EPA last year. Most important case of the last decade. That Supreme Court agrees with me 6-3 on everything I just told you. Now we've codified that in judicial precedent. So the next president who comes after me won't have his hands tied in the same way that Trump's were, and even in some ways, mine will be on day one, too. That's how we drive lasting change in this country. Now, I have a list of toxic executive orders from the past that we're just going to take a pen and cross a line through it every step of the way. 11246, the executive order that actually created race-based affirmative action in the private sector. They said that if you do business with the federal government, you have to adopt racial and gender quotas. Well, that's 20% of the U.S. workforce today. That's where it came from. Every Republican president could have taken a line and crossed it out. I pushed Trump's people on this. They said, and I understand why. They said, that's not a political hill we want to die on. That's why they didn't do it. They can drag me out of the White House before I'm done with that one, okay? So we will actually act on principle and conviction, not just vengeance and grievance. That allows us to go further with our own America First agenda. That is how I will govern. I appreciate that. Right up here.
No presidential candidate in the past has had actual plans, just promises. This man has plans and contingencies, And all of them are circled around reducing the size of the federal government, bringing meritocracy back, actually making America return to what made it great. Allow every individual citizen to maximize their own potential without anything holding them back or pushing them forward. We don't need incentives. We need freedom to incentivize us. Vivek Ramaswamy is hands down the best presidential candidate since Ron Paul. I am so grateful for him bringing real answers to real problems that America can really understand. I hope you learned something. I'm Tristan with Radically Rational Radio. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next episode. Stay resilient.